So what will any ground offensive mean for the more than 200 people still being held hostage by Hamas? There are those who think a delay is actually essential to allow further time for negotiations. Others believe going in on foot, soldiers doing that, is the only way to rescue them. Former IDF intelligence officer and ex-Mossad agent Yossi Alpher joins me now from just outside Tel Aviv. Yossi, thank you, and sending your thoughts. Difficult time, obviously, there with you. People are quite divided on the best course of action with regards to the hostage situation, but also the ground offensive that Israel wants to conduct. What is your thought?
Well, first of all, I think we have to recognize that if Hamas thinks it can get away with kidnapping over 200 hostages after all the atrocities it committed inside Israel, and then releasing them dribbling for a week, if he thinks it can get away with doing this for any extended period of time, it's wrong. And I think the IDF and the Israeli military planners are clear when they say we can't postpone a ground offensive for very much longer. Either Hamas and the various international mediators, Egyptians, Qataris, other people of goodwill, either they come up with a major hostage release, or I think the ground offensive is going to start. Bear in mind here that the hostage issue is not the only factor that influences the timing of a ground offensive. We also have the United States bringing additional forces to the region, and it's clearly asked Israel to pause while it deploys those forces, not just around Israel, but in the Persian Gulf as well, because it wants to be able to protect its assets and its people in the event that a ground offensive starts some kind of additional escalation.
That's an important piece of an additional context I haven't actually heard much elsewhere, which is that positioning around the wider region. With regard to the hostage situation and managing that, you mentioned this kind of drip release. How much of this is part of this Hamas strategy? Something compelling said by Mrs. Lifshitz, who was released last night. She said it just seemed all incredibly well planned, like there'd been a lot of planning that had gone into the taking of the hostages.
Clearly, they've thought about this hard and well. As the lady who was interviewed, Ms. Lifshitz, noted, she mentioned that she'd been in hell. She also mentioned some good treatment by Hamas, and clearly this is also Hamas tactic to try to impress the world that after all the atrocities it's committed, all of a sudden it's being nice. And obviously she's lucid and open and telling the truth about what happened to her, although you have to bear in mind her husband is still in Hamas captivity, and this may influence what she says. But you're right, Hamas has planned this well, and I'm sure it has more surprises up its sleeve. And we shouldn't be fooled by them. And I think we're reaching the point where we're not going to allow ourselves to be led astray by these tactics.
From what you know from your career about the way that Hamas thinks or responds, how would you see them responding to that ground offensive? They've obviously been well warned of it.
Look, Hamas are militant Islamists who have absolutely no room for negotiating with Israel, for coexisting with Israel, for the Jewish people. I heard the Secretary General of the UN this evening describe Hamas's attack as having come out of some sort of a vacuum created by Israel. Hamas is the vacuum. It has absolutely no room for any coexistence with Israel whatsoever. These are militant Islamists. These are anti-Semites. How are they going to respond to our offensive? I think they've got plenty of rockets in storage that they can be firing at us. They may try to use the hostages as human shields and even sacrifice some of them. This is, if and when this takes place, This is going to be very nasty. And I think the international public has to get ready for more of these very unpleasant, deceptive tactics on the part of Hamas. I just have to add, from the standpoint of Israel's motivation, if we don't get rid of this organization, we will hurt our own deterrent profile vis-a-vis other militant Islamists from Iran to Hezbollah to Yemen. We were just fired at this evening by militant Islamists in Syria trying to open a third or fourth front. This just underlines the need for Israel to proceed with its military plan to once and for all get rid of Hamas as a military organization that is capable in any way, shape, or form of threatening us.
Look, plenty for us to be looking out for from that in the coming days and to be aware and alert for. Yossi Alpher, former Israeli Defense Force intelligence officer. Thank you.
Thank you.